Good afternoon. Let's try that again. Let's start strong. Good afternoon. Perfect. So I'm here in front of you because of my pursuit to mobile technology. My name is Maria Brinas-Dobrowski, and I'm engineering manager for digital at Target. So I started Target 2.5 years ago as an architect, and my second day at Target was spent about discussing what's going to be our next mobile generation device. And of course, along with that discussion is what's going to be our next application architecture. So I'm here in front of you to share all the learnings that we had during those fun times. And I'm also looking forward to touch base with you after my talk to know what your experience in your own organization. So most of the businesses these days are undergoing digital transformation in one shape or another. But few of them have mastered digital successfully. So I'm going to start with big words. Digital is becoming Target's DNA. I hope you've seen our CEO, Brian Cornell, mentioned in Recode conference. He said he wants to make sure that our guests and our entire organization are committed to digital. And to prove that, we are spending $1 billion for our technology. But for this day and age, it's not just about, digital is the obvious answer. But for us, Target, it's about our team member and our guest. And I say when our guest, who shops here at Target? Thank you. In behalf of my Target family, thank you for contributing to our 401k. But so, over 50 years of Target retail history, our guests evolved tremendously. It's not about the moms, your daughters, or your wives. It's also about the grandpas, the dads, or your brother or uncle that's shopping at Target. And we also know that from our guest household, we have, majority of our guest households like 3 to 4 people. The core thing of all of this, like our guests, you guys, they're digital savvy. They don't only shop for themselves, but also for their family. They're very comfortable browsing beyond their list. Think of the person in your household that goes to Target. They're very comfortable doing spontaneous purchases, right? But from a technology perspective, wearing my technology hat, how do we cater to this on-demand shopping to ensure that from our stores, team members, and our digital, we're providing that exceptional experience to our guests, which we're going to discuss. So I told you that I've been at Target for 2.5 years. I've seen us grow from being superior planner and inferior doer, also known as waterfall and analysis paralysis, to being superior planner and at the same time superior doer. These logos right here, I bet you guys are all familiar. 3 years ago, you will not see that touching our technology stack. But things change. And we're glad that we're doing this. But we know for us to be key differentiator in digital world, we have to do more than this. We have to educate each and one of us to be a game changer, to think differently. So we have 347,000 team members. We are not a small company. We have 1,800 stores. We have 41 distribution centers, 7 headquarter locations, and 2 data centers. Imagine the shock of our team members when we told them that, hey, we're going to deploy more apps in the store once every 6 months. And then we're going to the store with our minimum viable product or proof of concept to test it on the store. They're not happy. They're like, you're disruptive. But they recognize that for us to be key differentiator, that they have to be okay with embrace testing and learning. They have to be okay with progress over perfection. And we have to move the speed of digital within retail. We have to be agile. Hashtag Throwback Thursday. So I'm going to walk down the memory lane of where we were before. Say hello, Jenny. This is our team member, Jenny. Team member Jenny is on sales floor duty. So she gets to carry that MC9090. It's a Motorola, and it's running Windows CE. Team member Jenny, for her to do her function on the floor, she needs to do that, right? Scan, scan, scan. Team member Jenny, let's say she's also on leaders on duty, so she gets to cover the front end. So if one of our cashiers said, hey, we need more coins, they don't have to do that. They just have to press a button, and then team member Jenny will receive it along with the MC70 here. That kind of nice device under the walkie-talkie, because it's a special device. It can receive an alert and vibration. Cool, right? Very cool. And so let's say it's a crazy day that day, and we have to do some recall for one of our products. So team member Jenny need to go run to the back room to access the desktop and print whatever recall we have to take off the shelves. And it's crazy that day, so team member Jenny also needs to talk to a CSC support. So she needs to find that red phone in one of our aisles. And for team member Jenny to talk real time to some of the team members in the store, she needs to use a walkie-talkie. Can you picture it now? They have like a belt, but we said, you know, they need a backpack. So we talk about our guests, right? So that's our team member, Jenny. So we talk about our guests. You are guests. You're digital savvy. You carry our store around your pocket because you shop online and in store. So we have Amy and Dave. They're going to our store carrying their iPhone. Sorry, Android friends. And then they have that Target native app. So suddenly, Amy and Dave realize, hey, there's something that's not right. It's like the product specification on this app and on the shelves looks different. And then, oh, what's that review? It's like, I don't know. And so team member Jenny saw them. It's like, hey, how can I help you? And Amy and Dave said, oh, it's like there's some inconsistencies going on here. So team member Jenny said, because it's so big, team member Jenny said, Motorola, right? Motorola 9090. It's so big, it's Windows CE. Native app, not going to run on it. Even though if we say like we develop it on hybrid, still not going to run on it. So imagine that picture. That picture is telling us that Amy and Dave has more information than our team member Jenny. How can team member Jenny say that, hey, how can I help you if we are not providing her the right tool to access the right information? And I'm not making this up. But it truly happened. And so we give them an iPod. That's our next generation mobile device. So I told you about my second day at Target. We talked about what's going to be that next generation device, and this is it. This is going to be our next generation device. When we're doing the proof of concept, it's actually fun because our team member loves it. We don't need to train them. They know it. They're using it at home. But this is actually the easy part. When you start thinking about like deploying it, scaling it on 1,800 stores, suddenly issues start coming out. Apple ID, it's like, why Apple ID is such a big deal? But 1,800 store, 25 devices, you do the math, shared device. Not gonna happen, nightmare. So we have to walk away. And then, how are we going to deploy all this application? When we're doing the POC, it's fine, because we can just sideload the apps. But 1,800 store, 25 devices per each store, right? So we partner with the mobile device management, so we're able to deploy over the air. So that's good. And we start thinking about like kiosk, security, performance monitoring. All of these questions were overwhelming at that time. But we know we have to find solution, and we did. But I have to be transparent with you. Some of the solution, very elegant, but some of them, not so elegant. But these are the things that we have to be okay with. You saw the gap between team member Jenny and Amy and Dave, and we provide her the tool. So at this point, you probably realize that we use mobile as part of our omnichannel strategy. What is omnichannel? It's providing you guys a seamless and flexible experience through your shopping journey. We should not care whether you shop in store or you shop online. The only thing we know is where are you at your point in your shopping journey, so we can assist you. So our 347,000 team members realized, yes, we need to do mobile. Suddenly, we have mobile explosions. Everyone is doing mobile. It's like from an enterprise level, oh my goodness, how can we unify this? How can we develop that skill organizationally? What are the guidance that we have to give them? Complexities equals challenges. We talked about that we used to have Windows CE. So we have to start from scratch. we need to develop a modern application. HTML5, CSS, JavaScript, PhoneGap, Objective-C, Swift, New Relic, Jenkins, etc., etc. So we had a conversation of, should we do open source? It's the new cool thing. Or should we do our traditional way of doing this, where we buy commercial stuff, commercial product, so we can influence the roadmap and control it a little bit? But for us, the most important thing that we learn is finding the right tool for the job. And of course, along with that is how can they work cohesively? I mentioned that we have that mobile explosion, right? So we leverage automation as much as we can. From deployment, signing the app, to deployment to different stages. I talk about some of the problems that we had. So hybrid versus native. Who had that discussion in this room? A few of you. There you go. So you know how painful it is. But it was, we learned something. So I'm going to tell you from our architecture type, we said hybrid for a team member-facing application, native for a guest-facing application. No judgment, hold it off. The reason for that is the way we design a target is because there's a separate organization who's making the last decision for our next generation device. So from an application development perspective, we have to protect ourselves. That, if they said, OK, let's go to Android tomorrow, or let's go to Windows again, we should be able to move fast. And so for native responsiveness, performance, it's a no-brainer. But for our kiosk, so I've mentioned we moved to iPod. For our kiosk, we moved to iPad from a consistency standpoint. When we're doing the POC, we use guided access mode. So because kiosk is like you have to lack a single application to a device. But when we start scaling it, because we're big, right, it's not secured enough. Too much burden for our team member, not worth of their time. So good thing our MDM, our mobile device management partner, they said, we have single app mode, you can use this. And we said, OK, great. So single app mode is ability to push the app automatically from our headquarters to the stores. And said, all good. But again, iPad, consumerized device. So suddenly, for some reason, some of the devices is falling off the network. I don't know. We just said it's consumerized device. And so at that point, the only solution that our team member can do is remove that device, package it up, and send it back to headquarters. Because it's locked, they cannot access to the Springboard. They cannot do anything. Useless. So imagine the cost that comes with it, right? And then at the same time, too, they're down with another device. So we stepped back and we said, we have to be creative on how we're going to solve this. We tried different things. We tried doing caching and saving password locally, not working. 6 months ago, Autonomous Profile came out. So Autonomous Profile is kind of sweet spot for us. We push back the control back to the application. So how it works is when the device falls off the network, our team member can do some secret gesture, like dance in front of the device. No, I'm kidding. It's a secret gesture, so I cannot tell you. But it would be funny, though, that some of you would do that on our gift registry app, right? Just trying to, hey, how can I remove this from the kiosk mode? But so secret gesture, and then they have to enter some security code. So all good. And then the application, too, would be smart enough to know that if it's connected to the network, it would just connect to our Active Directory. And another win for that solution is we're able to switch between multiple applications. And because, being a retail store, we have multiple applications in our kiosk. And so we have mom and baby and gift registry. So if you're shopping for a stroller or something, and you said, I want to add that, I want to add this to my gift registry list. I do not have to move to another device just to go to the gift registry application. I can just do it on one application. Good. So for security, I know we've learned our lesson after the incident. It's become really #1 requirement for us. So we know that, from a security standpoint, we can do the authentication to our Active Directory. But the question is, what about the single sign-on? We need that from a retail perspective. And so it's going to be a go or no go for us if we're going to figure out our single sign-on solution. At that time, our technology stack, we only have SAML. And then OAuth 1.0 is like having a bad rep at Target. So I sat down with our security architect and our security platform vendor and said, we need to figure out what's going to be our solution for this. This is very crucial. And then, fortunately, our security platform vendor said, oh, we're supporting OAuth 2.0. I said, OK, great, we tried that. We tried it on native and hybrid. That's one of the pain of having multiple app architecture. But we figured out the answer. At the end of our third day, we said, OK, we can do it. The only challenge is for OAuth 2.0, we need that authorization server, which we already have, and then we need that resource server. So from a resource server standpoint, we just have to figure out, are we going to do it distributed or central? Or are we going to do Nginx, IIS versus IIS? Because our stores, they're on a Microsoft platform. But at the end of the day, we know that we can solve it. We just have to make some decision in some of the things to make it happen. But with all of these things that's going on, we know that we need to deliver fast and quality digital products. Fast, easy, right? But adding quality there, it's kind of tough. So how are we going to answer that? We need to find some mobile application performance management. But before that comes with it, is we also need to understand our user. It's not just about knowing you guys. We need to understand you. Fortunately, though, from a guest perspective, we have more ways than ever to hear from our guests. Reviews from App Store or like Google Play, we're reading those every 2 weeks of our cycle. That's part of our lessons learned. To quote the One Minute Manager book, he said there that feedback is the breakfast for champions. But if you're the engineer who worked really hard to develop that app, reading that fed up and done with this app, disappointing, what the heck? Just a disclaimer, we also have good reviews. Just to make a point, I just captured this. But I mean, it's disheartening. But that's one of the things that we have to learn. We know, we accepted that it's part of our mobile evolution. But what about our team members? How can we create same feedback cycle like what our guest has? Our application, we don't deploy. Our store team member application, we don't deploy them at App Store. We have our own. But how can we create the same feedback, right? Redphone and ServiceNow. For you guys who use ServiceNow and you're happy with it, I would love to talk to you. You're probably doing something different. Because our team member, Jenny, right, and assisting Amy and Dave, if the application crash, team member Jenny is not going to go run back to the back room just to, like, after 100 clicks, suddenly she found that template on ServiceNow, and after 5 days, we're going to receive it from development. Or, like, go run to the other aisle and pick up the phone and report it to CSC support. She's not going to do that. She's well-trained. She's going to stick it up and then keep on supporting Amy and Dave. Maybe she's overachiever. At the end of the day, she just, OK, let's call it and let's report this. But I bet you she would not remember what steps she took when that application crashed. The only thing that she would remember is that disappointment, that feeling that this app did not help me at all to deliver that satisfaction to our guests, Amy and Dave. And so we got really serious about finding that mobile application performance management. And just to give you a quick history of our mobile application management is we actually did 2 proof of concept for this. The first one, we learned a lot, equals failure, because we know that it's like, OK, all the requirements that we have, the mobile industry, they're not ready. So we went back to the drawing board, invite the same people, and kind of extended a little bit. And suddenly, they came back with something more. Like, this is really what we're looking for. So we found New Relic. But that timing, though, is I found it last year in November, and then but we need to do something for our holiday. So we did a short-term solution. We chose Crashalytics. It's wonderful. I like it. But the challenge is we need more than the application crash. We need more than knowing how many users are there. We need more than just the operating system. We need more than that from an enterprise level. the main focus of us is like finding where and when and why the bottlenecks are happening. So we can innovate faster. We can focus on like innovating than fixing the problems. I need to know if my application is accessing all the APIs. I need to know what's the HTTP request average throughput. I need to know that when my application crash, is it connected to the internet? Because I want us to remove from what we call like blame storming. If there's something happening at Target, we go to the war room. There's like infrastructure engineer and then software engineer. So infrastructure engineer said, hey, it's probably the code. Talk to the software engineer. That's why it's crashing or not working. And then the software engineer would say, well, your network is doing something. There's probably some proxy issue over there, right? I'm software engineer by heart, so I would say it's the infrastructure engineer's fault. But it's removing us that. It's like we know the fact. Because it's not just about like finding that crisis management. It's also about performance analytics. Because at Target, we understand that performance, it's not a luxury. It's a requirement for us. So going back to my second slide, I showed you that our CEO's commitment to digital. And in Minnesota, too, where we belong, we love our seasons. Yes, even winter, too, we love it. Like the season of transformation. At Target, we are in the season of transformation. We accept that we're not always to get it right. In fact, we failed many times, but we keep on going and going until we get it right. And also, for us, we're a big corporate company. We like to plan. We're a superior planner. But we know we're smart enough to know now that we don't have to keep on persevering. We're smart enough now to say, OK, let's pivot. It's not working. Let's change direction. And also, from a big corporate company, we said, you know, if you want some change, don't wait for your leaders to make that change. Don't wait for your office mate to make that change. That change should start within you. Because if you're really passionate about that change and you'll keep on working on it, eventually people will follow you, as long as you're making that change about the mission and not about you. And we've seen that at Target many times. And finally, I do not want to overstate it, but at the same time, I don't want to understate it either, that we have 50 years of retail history. But we know now that Target is on its way to be a great technology company that happens to sell all the stuff that you need. And also, we are not done. We're just starting. Thank you.